Hello and welcome to Drive-In Double Feature Podcast. I'm Nathan.
I'm Ryan.
And this is the podcast where we talk about 2 movies a week every Tuesday and Thursday. And today we're talking about 1997's Turbulence, directed by Robert Butler. It's a plain serial killer movie starring Ray Liotta and Lauren Holly, who I knew from Dumb and Dumber my whole life.
The former Mrs. Jim Carrey.
Yeah, former Mrs. Jim Carrey, yep. Which I didn't learn about till reading about this movie. I didn't know they were a thing.
Yep, they hooked up during Dumb and Dumber.
Oh, interesting. But yeah, this movie, I picked it just because, Ray Liotta passed away recently, which is really, really sad. Rest in peace. Really like a very one-of-a-kind actor. He has a very unique style, really unique face, and I usually liked him when he popped up and stuff.
Yeah, even like in video games, like Vice City,
Mm-hmm.
hearing his voice, and that whole video game was pretty cool. And
Mm-hmm.
it was, I've always, of course, Goodfellas, obviously.
Yeah.
That one's an all-time classic, but he's been in a lot of other stuff, and really sad to hear that he passed.
Yeah, it's a sad one. And yeah, if there's a Ray Liotta movie to go back to where he is hamming it up, it is Turbulence. What a movie. I knew nothing about this going in, except it's kind of like a Con Air ripoff. But when watching it, it's only like Con Air just because prisoners are on a plane. Otherwise, it's a total deviation.
It's a total tone shift. Like Con Air is like an action movie. There's a lot of real, just actiony type of stuff. And this one is, I was texting you and I'm like, have you watched this yet? And you're like, no. And I'm like, this movie is almost like a horror movie.
Yeah, you said that. And I was like, really? Okay. I thought it was just going to be like a dumb action flick. No, this movie is like balls to the wall, like extreme, like just all over the place. I never seen him. Well, I guess I have, but there's not a lot of movies that change tonally as much as this does. At times it's almost like 2 movies playing at one at one time.
Right. Well, you think it's just going to be like you said, like a Con Air ripoff. You think like, oh, well,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to think of some like really intricate plot to escape, and they're going to take over and make all these demands, but that doesn't really happen. Almost right away, probably like 15 minutes into the movie, the cops that are holding them in captive die. Like they murder them.
Yeah, it's not even like a movie where it's like a war, like one side of the plane against the other. It's almost like a slasher movie survivor having to fend off the slasher villain, because Ray Liotta is like a lonely hearts killer. Like he seduces women because he's like very charming and then murders them. And he does get caught. And of course he gets on the plane and he tries to seduce Lauren Holly. And I actually kind of like this because the movie kind of played it like, because he's saying he's innocent the whole time. Like, wasn't me.
Mm-hmm.
They planted evidence. And it doesn't play it for long, though. Very soon into it, you realize, oh, holy crap. No, this guy is like an awful killer.
Yeah, because he is on the plane with another who's just like a bank robber, which is played by Brendan Gleeson from Braveheart.
Mm-hmm. And doing a wild Southern accent, by the way. I don't think I've ever heard him do that before.
Now, do you think they just went based off of his looks, or they just like, or do you think they really wanted Brendan Gleeson? They're like, hey, can you give us something here?
No, it was definitely, we got a big guy here. Let's just let him, he's got the look. And I wonder if Brendan Gleeson was like, I just want to do a Southern accent. Can I do a Southern accent?
I guess so, because it would be weird if there was just a random Englishman on a plane.
Yeah, true. That makes sense. And Brendan Gleeson, he's in and out of this movie. It is a brief role.
Yeah, this movie is very bloody too.
Yeah,
he does one of the most violent kills in the movie, where he takes off the sink handle tap, and it's like a little spike that comes out of the airplane bathroom. He just stabs it right into the guy's neck.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love that moment because it's so silly because Brendan Gleeson's like, oh, I really have to pee. and the dudes had to like one dude has to stand behind him as he's taking a pee and washing his hands. And somehow he doesn't notice that he took like the soap dispenser thing to murder somebody with.
Right. The part where you really have to suspend your disbelief is when they take guns and they're just firing bullets like wildly onto a plane it's in air right now, which is probably one of the worst things you could ever do on a plane.
Yeah, no. Yeah, you can honestly no. They think they bust a hole in the plane at one point, and that gets like fixed. Brendan Gleeson at one point's like open the plane door like for the emergency while they're in the air. It's like, do you realize what that's gonna do?
Right. Well, because the whole point of a plane is planes are pressurized when you're in mid-flight because our bodies cannot handle the really thin air that's up in the really high altitude. Mm-hmm. So when they do bust a hole into the hull of the plane immediately becomes depressurized. So all of them probably should have started dying like when that happened, or or at least started like gasping for air. But they just put a little briefcase on the hole. It's fine, no worries.
Yeah, easy fix. And maybe it's because this is the most advanced plane in the world, and they made sure to say that multiple times. This is the most advanced plane. It can land. The plane can land itself.
I was about to say, this plane is so easy. I feel like I could have flown this plane.
Right? Yeah. I don't know why Lauren Holly's had such an issue. She definitely was having a struggle at first getting a hold of this autopilot that was just controlling itself.
Right. Well, she gets there and this guy's just, I feel like I could do it, because if you just give me like a little instruction, like, oh, just push these buttons and the plane basically flies itself.
Yeah.
And it lands.
But I do like the added stakes, because the whole movie, Ray Liotta and her are like fighting back and forth, and Ray Liotta is like killing off people in the plane and has some of them hostage. And Ray Liotta ends up in the bottom of the plane and is knocking all the wires down and knocks out the autopilot. So she actually has to land it herself. I can't believe Ray Liotta was never able to bust down the door of the cabin.
Which he does eventually, but...
Well, yeah, it takes him a very long time to do.
He has to find an axe, and I don't know, like, you see airplanes that are, whenever they do lock the door, I don't feel like those doors are like the most structurally sound. It feels like I could be able to kick it pretty good and maybe do something with, but...
Well, we should experiment sometime.
Yeah. So, Nathan, next time you're on a plane, just go up to the cockpit and just start kicking the door and see what happens.
Yeah, I don't see any problems with that. There's definitely...
Have you guys seen the movie Turbulence? Do you think that they showed this movie on a plane?
I don't know. Probably. I think I've heard people tell wild stories of movies, like the worst movies playing on planes.
Because I thought that was like a rule on planes. They were not allowed to show like plane crashes, because I remember they edit a lot of those movies a lot of times they're on planes. Because when I flew one time, I was watching, because I just watch whatever crap's on there. I don't really care. I just want to preoccupy my time. So I watched that one movie, Blockers, with John Cena and Leslie Mann.
Yeah.
And there's one scene where they just... I know it happens in the movie. They start like throwing up on each other. Like there's this big throw up scene, and they cut that scene out entirely. So it's just like the very next scene, they're like clean up, like, oh, I got all this stuff on me, but they don't actually show them getting thrown up.
Yeah, I guess because they don't want like the stranger sitting next to you to turn their head and people are vomiting on each other.
But then on the other hand, I watched the movie Captain Fantastic with Viggo Mortensen.
Did it have the scene?
And I had a scene of Viggo Mortensen full frontal nudity, just completely uncensored. And I'm just like trying to block the screen because it's...
the last movie I watched on a plane was the Natalie Portman movie where she... Oh God.
Black Swan?
No. Where she plays John F. Kennedy's wife. I'm totally blanking on her name.
Oh, Jackie O.
Yeah, Jackie. I watched that movie on the plane, and that had some graphic scenes in it, and those played on the plane.
I guess it just depends on the airline, but
that makes sense.
But anyway, it's like you said, it does show him like murdering all these people. And there's one really sadistic scene where he murders one of the flight attendants,
Hmm.
and he's just like berating her and like doing like just like, I don't like you, Maggie, and just like choking her, and she's just like so petrified looking.
Yeah,
Uh,
Ray Liotta, he really goes 0 to 100 in this movie. Like in the beginning, he's kind of quiet, and then like he out of nowhere becomes just absolutely insane, just overacting his heart out. And I was there for it. And those choking scenes, they were hard to watch. Like it, something about the noises, the direction they had for these women during these choking scenes, they were making the worst noises I've ever heard in
oh,
like a
I know.
choking scene in a movie. It was something.
But yeah, the one scene that reminded me that was like a horror movie is that after everyone dies, Lauren Holly's character goes up in the cockpit and she's messing up there around for a while, and then she's kind of wondering like, where is he? Where's everybody else? And then she goes downstairs because this is a huge plane and they have stairs. She goes downstairs and like all the dead bodies are set up. Like Ray Liotta's character
Yeah.
set up all the dead bodies and the chairs so that way they're all just like sitting there dead.
Hmm. Yeah. It's it's definitely it's awful just imagery. Just something I wasn't really expecting at all. I would have never guessed this would be the movie to have some very violent scenes. I mean, it's cool. I kind of like that about. So overall, like, I kind of like this movie because it's such an oddball movie. Like, it has a lot of like maybe bad elements, but it's kind of just cheesy and a weird mix of things that it's hard to not enjoy yourself. Even though this movie got horrible reviews when it got released.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I really liked it. I mean, I
Yeah.
thought, I mean, it's cheesy fun. I mean, it's not, I didn't take it very seriously at all. And it was just kind of like Hamburger. Just, it kind of hits me like right at the right time where I
Hmm.
was kind of wanting something like that. And because the last couple of movies that you and I have done, we've done some pretty serious, heavy movies, I would say.
Yeah.
And so now it's kind of like, oh wow, like that was really fun. There are some really stupid stuff in this movie, though.
Oh yeah, there's some really, really dumb stuff, and I think a lot of that stuff comes from more. I don't know if this is where you're going, but like with Lauren Holly flying the plane, there's a lot of dumb moments that comes with that. There's a point where she's flying the plane and it's almost hitting buildings in LA, and she hits a car, and it gets lodged in the landing gear, and then they get like a pilot of a fighter jet to shoot. Well, he's going to shoot down the plane, but instead he shoots the vehicle off the landing gear. Is like, you're good for landing.
Yeah,
So late.
that part was funny.
Yeah.
That's not what I was going with, but
Oh, okay, gotcha.
the one of the lines that I thought was so stupid was so well earlier in the movie, like she gets to the point where he like kind of corners her and he's asking her all these really personal questions like, oh, like when's the first time you had sex and did you like it, and like that was kind of stupid. But then he asked her like, do you believe in capital punishment? And she's like, no, I don't believe in capital punishment. And then later in the movie, she has a gun pointed at him and he's like, you're not going to shoot me because you don't believe in capital punishment. And then she just shoots him. I changed my mind.
Yeah, that's her zingy one-liner. I changed my mind. Yeah.
So dumb.
Yeah, no, it's so dumb.
And another scene that's like, so there are other passengers on this plane and
Mhm.
Ray Liotta doesn't want to deal with them. And I guess the script writer and director didn't want to deal with them either because they just
Yeah.
they just put them all into this big cabin closet basically.
Mhm.
And they even said like, how could you expect us to be in here? We're not gonna be able to breathe and all this stuff. So that happened probably like a third into the movie maybe, and the plane goes through all kinds of crazy stuff where it's like hitting buildings and it's like shaking, really bad turbulence. There's one scene where it does like a barrel roll,
Yeah.
and and I'm just thinking, I'm like, okay, all those passengers in there have to be dead, right? I mean, because they're in an enclosed space. There's like 10 people in this cabin. They have to all be dead. And of course, at the end of the movie, they just open the door and everybody's fine. No injuries or anything like that.
Yeah, for some reason in my head, I was like, oh, he just killed them all because they just disappear from the movie. I know he puts them in the closet and hides them, but it's like no thought is really given to them at all. It's definitely like, okay, we don't have enough money to film all these people. Just hide them for for most of the movie. It's a very interesting choice.
Right.
Yeah.
And then one other really stupid one, and this goes back to what we talked about Friday the 13th. So Friday the 13th, they would knock out Jason and they would try to run away and get away and they wouldn't finish Jason off. Now, mind you, that was in a camp, and while they should have killed Jason while they had the time, there was still a lot of ground that could have ran away. I mean, in theory, you could probably run pretty far away from Jason at least.
Yeah.
But in this one, she knocks him out cold with a fire extinguisher, and he's just laying there. And I'm like, he's going to wake up eventually.
Yeah, just finish him off.
Just finish him off. Like, and you could have landed this plane probably an hour earlier if you would have killed this guy.
Yeah, if you would have killed him, you would have had no issues or anything. I don't know what she was even thinking whenever she locked him down in the undercarriage of the plane. Like, his foot got caught in the door, but it's like come on. Like, you're just going to leave him there? Like, it's stupid.
Well, yeah, and then she just ends up killing him anyway at the end of the movie.
Exactly.
So I'm like, why wait? Just fill out the runtime?
And that's what he wants anyway. Ray Liotta's thing, his whole plan is to crash his plane and kill himself and everybody in it because he doesn't want to go to jail forever. And like, he really hates the detective that's going after him. So he's like, well, it's going to be on your hands when I crash into those buildings and everybody dies. It's a movie that would not be made post 9/11. I will say that is not going to happen.
No,
Definitely of its time.
No, and the whole reason why this movie wasn't very popular at the time is because it actually coincided with a real life plane crash.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So this was actually there was a plane crash, TWA Flight 800, on July 17th, 1996. This movie came out in 1997. So, and this whole movie set during Christmas. So you can kind of feel like, okay, this was probably going to come out around Christmas time, 1996, but it got delayed back until January of 1997.
Gotcha.
So because of that horrific plane crash, and this whole movie is about a plane potentially crashing, they're like, they removed all marketing from this movie, took out all trailers. So
Gotcha.
This movie just kind of came and went into the theater. But this is not the only Turbulence movie.
That's what's so weird. Okay, this movie cost $55 million, made 11, huge bomb, and for obvious reasons, like you said. There's two more Turbulence movies, and yeah, I mean the straight to home video market is so weird. The dumbest movies get sequels. So
well, but apparently though, I mean, it didn't do well in box office. Apparently, it was a huge hit during the home video market. Like
really?
This was the most rented video, one of the most rented videos in 1997.
Yeah, it must have just hit because wasn't like Con Air was 97, right? And so was Air Force One, the Harrison Ford movie. So
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so I guess unfortunately Turbulence could have been the start of a trend, but it definitely just came out in theaters at the wrong time if they just waited a little bit longer.
So yeah, that's the other thing then. So I mean, everyone calls this a Con Air ripoff, but it predates Con Air.
Yes, yeah, it predates Con Air. It's just they say that just because Con Air is the more popular movie. It's kind of like just Volcano Dante's Peak kind of deal where two movies, same ideas are there, but one's just going to be more popular and be called a ripoff of the other.
Except there was three. There was that one and Air Force One, like you said.
Yeah, exactly. And I bet you there's even more because I was thinking about that. I was like, that was a weird subgenre in the 90s is like plane movies. Just like it was in the 70s with those airport movies as well. I think there's a fascination with airplane crashes. It's just one of those interesting, like, morbid things.
Well, yeah, and there's actually a podcast called Black Box Down that
Okay.
I listen to semi-regularly, but each podcast episode is them detailing how a certain plane crashed,
Mm.
and they go through like the play-by-play and the minutes of it, and it's just kind of funny because this plane, all this crazy stuff happens onto it, but just on some planes it's like the most minor things that just make these planes crash. And
Yeah, it could be just like missing a part, or just like didn't get a proper checkup before it left the
yeah, or
ground.
they just put in like the wrong calibration or whatever. And
Yeah. Yeah,
so
because it's very easy to listen to those black box recordings. You can find those online and listen to them, and it's I don't know, it's one of those things, morbid curiosity kind of things. Because everybody flies, and when everybody flies, you have that feeling in the back of your head. If you let it stress you, it can. But like, oh, this could be the one that crashes.
do you, on a personal note, do you have a fear of flying?
No, not really. I enjoy flying. I mean, no matter what, I'm going to be a little on edge while I fly. I'm always going to have that thought, but I don't let it affect me. I can sleep on a plane. I don't mind it, but when I fly, do I think about, this might happen? Yeah, yeah, it comes up. What about
Do you
you?
ever do you ever get the little pilot wings?
The pilot wings?
Do you get to ask the captain to,
Oh, and
want
I
to see
can
the
ride up in the cockpit with him?
and they gave the little plastic wings?
Oh, no, I've only done that on the monorail at Disney, back when you were allowed to do that.
Oh, okay, cool.
Uh,
No, when I was little, I did get the pilot wings.
you did? Oh, that's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. But
Nice.
I remember my first flight, I was actually really excited to go on a plane. And then when it was right in front of me, like the
Mm-hmm.
reality was starting to set in, I got really scared. Oh,
Oh.
that was last year. No, I'm
Yeah.
kidding.
You got your
No,
pilot wings last year?
no, this was when I was 6. But anyway, I've flown a lot now, and I don't think it's something I'll ever get used to.
No.
It's because the less you think about it, it's easier. Like when it's a smooth flight, you hardly ever think about it. But then on those couple instances where you do get really bad turbulence, where I've been in some of those situations where it just kind of shakes around pretty crazy, you're like, oh God, like I'm kind
Yeah.
of stressed out here. And
Yeah, and you're in a room full of people that are stressed out. There's like that energy in the air when you hit turbulence of like, ooh, like, uncomfortableness, and landing and taking off are always going to feel very weird, especially landing, both relieving and a freaky feeling. So
right. But once
yeah,
you hit the ground, it's over.
exactly.
Either if you're alive or dead.
Yeah, I guess if I'm dead, I'm not thinking about it. So it is what it is. But
Um,
going back to the movie, how did you feel about Lauren Holly in this movie? So a lot of the critics at the time, I was just reading reviews, Roger Ebert and stuff like that. A lot of them really don't like her in this movie. They're like, she's a really bad pick for an action heroine. And I actually want to go against that. I kind of liked her in this role.
yeah, I get what they're saying, that I don't know if I would cast her in any future action roles, but in terms of this movie, I thought she did well. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't, I mean, nothing overly bad or anything like that. I mean, I don't know what they were kind of expecting. I don't know what they were kind of hoping for out of the movie. Maybe Ray Liotta kind of chewed up the scenery a little too much, but
Yeah.
I, I thought everyone was really good in it. I didn't have any major issues with it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there was something that kind of even adds to that slasher interest, is like an unsuspecting hero. She rises up, she lands that plane with the help of a captain. They become like best buds, I guess.
Oh, well, that's not how I took it. I thought because at the whole movie, she's, they're kind of saying like, oh, like she's really unlucky in love. And the beginning of the movie, her engagement gets called off. And then she's kind of talking with this guy. And I'm like, at the end of this movie, she meets the guy that was help talking her through. And I'm like, oh no, are they really going to throw in this romantic plot point like at the very end of the movie? Like, oh, she found a guy.
Yeah, she found the one. Yeah, because I think the movie was trying to play on like, oh, she's going to get seduced by Ray Liotta. It's going to happen. But luckily she does stay away. Like she kind of talks to him, but that never really happens.
Oh, well, that was the other thing in the beginning of the movie. He shows up on the plane, and it's well known that he's a serial killer because he's convicted. So I'm assuming there was like a trial and probably in the news and all that. They even said like it was on News Watch or whatever.
Well, he was convicted beforehand and broke out of prison. This was them catching him a second time.
Oh,
that's
right.
what they said. So like it's a serial killer that broke out of prison. Everybody should know about this guy.
Right. But then Lauren Holly says, I don't think he's so bad. He doesn't look like a serial killer.
Yeah, she even asks him at one point, did you really kill all those people they say you killed? And of course Ray Liotta goes, no, I didn't. Come on, I didn't do that.
Yeah, and he plays like he's trying to really be like really charming. He goes like when they're asking like what do you want to drink? He's like, well, what do you like to drink, Terry? And she's like, oh, I like apple juice. Like, oh, I'll have the apple juice.
Yeah, he asks what kind of meal that she wants. And she says turkey. And he's like, I like what you like. And she says she's a vegetarian. Got him, I guess.
Got him.
I don't know.
She got the W on that one.
Yeah, I guess so. But, overall, just talking about this movie, it's a fun time. If you like, to everybody listening, like if you just heard this and you're like, oh, that sounds silly, it really is. It's just a silly movie. It sucks that it bombed so hard because I feel like it's kind of like a late 90s action, just like any other at the time.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for a lot of cheap thrills and like you said, they're like, oh, well, like, yeah, we're going to go to that place and we're going to make this super gory for no reason at all. Then, hey, all right, I'm in. So.
Yeah, so maybe one day we'll do Turbulence 2 and 3.
We might be doing a sequel week coming up. Who knows?
Maybe soon. But does that wrap it up, Ryan? You got anything else to say about Turbulence?
I believe that's it. I recommend it.
Yeah, I recommend it as well. So I guess then we'll lead on in. What's coming up what's coming up on Thursday, Ryan?
Well, it's that time of the month, as everyone always says.
Yeah.
And
oh yeah, everybody says that. It's like, oh yeah,
yeah,
it's my time of the month.
Yeah, it's that old Toho time of the month.
Mm-hmm.
And we're digging back into that Godzilla well. And we're pulling out the sequel to Mothra and King Kong versus Godzilla, and that is Mothra versus Godzilla from 1964. Mm-hmm. And that movie is free on YouTube. So go ahead, watch it. It's also on HBO Max as well. But yeah, we'll be watching that. You can watch along with us if you'd like.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm excited to talk about that. And everybody, we've talked about a little bit, but we do have a Patreon now. If you want to support the show, you can donate over there to us. It will help us pay for streaming and get better quality content out to all of you. Also, we have exclusive content on there. We have exclusive episodes, a lot of just us talking about what we normally talk about, a lot of movie talk and everything. But I've had a lot of fun with it, and I think it's really top-notch stuff. But all main episodes will still be here. Also, be sure to follow us on social media at DIDFpod if you want any updates through Twitter. And email us at driveindoublefeaturepodcast@gmail.com if you have any thoughts, opinions on Turbulence, or any recommendations. And until next time.
Until next time.